there's so much respect there.
It's a pleasure to be here with two legendary men and high school football coaches, not only in the state of Michigan, but the country. Over 750 wins, 19 state championships, but the impact they've had on young men across the state of Michigan. I went to Brother Rice and CC. Coach Mach, Coach Fracassa, it's an honor. How are you?
We're doing great.
Thank you.
Well, what a great atmosphere tonight. What an environment. We're having it looks like another classic that'll come down to the last seconds. But tell me, over the years that you guys had this fierce rivalry, 4 decades, you have a tremendous amount of respect and love for each other. Tell me how that friendship developed and how that makes you feel today.
Well, I would say that when you're younger, you don't want to get too close to the guy you got to beat. But then as you get older, you understand the guy that you're going to get beat, and I think you got more respect for each other. And I think that's what kind of happened with us, and Al Fracassa was the man on the scene that when I got into coaching, he was the coach to be like. And I looked at his program and him as a man, and I said, that's the kind of man I want to be like. I want to run a program like that. And so it wasn't very hard to not like him, because he was great with his kids and he was great with his program. So, and I wanted to be like that. So,
Coach Fracassa, you guys started your rivalry in 1976, first time you competed against Coach Mach as a head coach at Catholic Central. How has that friendship impacted you over your life and your coaching career?
I'll tell you what, he and I are good friends, and he's the only coach that I went to before the game and wished him luck, and he wished me luck. I think that's pretty unique, don't you?
I do.
And he's a respectful person. I know his wife, and I heard him speak many, many times. Not to hear him speak, but if he had something to say about some of the things he did, I kind of, got to me, and I went and tried to see if I can overcoach him and make correction. But Tom and I have worked together in other places, and we respect each other, and he's the only coach I'm proud to say that I was wishing him luck before the game, and we hugged after the game.
Yeah.
That's the kind of man he is.
And I got to watch that over 2 decades myself, playing and coaching with you, Coach Mach, and it was tremendous. It really sets an example. Let's talk about that example. I think bigger than football is you have impacted thousands of young men and future leaders of America over your career. Tell me about that journey and how special it is, that impact you had outside of football on young men, and how that's impacted your life.
Okay. Well, I would say that the philosophies of our program are the things that I think stick with the young men that we coach. When you say what the mind can conceive, the body can achieve. And we would say the WHAM never loses yardage. And we would say, you got to get it done and you got to believe in yourself. The magic is in believing. And, when you say those things, in my own life, I had to use those kind of sayings to become the best man that I could become. And so I wanted the young men that I coached to become the best men they could become, as well as coach football and do a good job with that aspect of it. I think Al and I were both men that believe in God and believe in sharing ourselves with people and believe sharing our philosophies of life with the kids. And I think that we were both successful, and that's why we like each other, because we like the same qualities that each one of us have.
1976 was his first year, right?
Yes, sir.
And they kicked a field goal against us, and it was a 3-point difference. And it took me 26 years, or maybe a little bit longer, to repay him. His field goal was about 50 yards, and my kid that kicked the field goal was 55 yards. So I brag about that all the time, because my kid kicked further than his.
Well, in this storied rivalry, what is your most memorable moment? And we'll start with you, Coach Fracassa. What's your most memorable moment of the game? So the one moment that sticks out between the great games you've played against each other.
I think that maybe in all the years we've played against each other, I think half and half. He's won half of the games, and I won half of the games. But the thing that I remember the most is I got even with him 27 years later, and it was the last seconds of the game, which my kid kicked a 55-yard field goal. So, and you know, every game when we got through, I gave him a hug and he gave me a hug. Yeah. This man is a wonderful man, he believes in God, and I thought he was going to be a priest. And he told me one time, and now he's a normal guy like me. The only difference is he's 75 and I'm going to be 90.
Both young men. Coach Mack, your most memorable moment of the Brother Rice CC rivalry?
Well, you know, there's been so many of them, and you talk about 41 years of playing Al Fracassa. You know, I told him once at his, when he was retirement party, that if I knew I had to play him that many times, I'm not sure I would have taken the job. But I'll say the one moment that stands out the most for me is the moment that I think was the very first game that we ever played in the Boys Bowl. You know, and I was a young coach. And I have never, ever been in that atmosphere before. You know, that he was coming in as Al Fracassa and a great school, a great coach and a great team. And, you know, we ended up winning that game, and I think that really became an emphasis for our program. You know, it was a point where we started saying, well, you know, we can do this, you know. And that's what I really wanted to emphasize to our kids, is that we just ended up beating a great football team that has a great coach, and now you just have to learn how to believe in yourself. And in your life, you're going to end up doing that constantly, trying to believe in yourself and believe in the men that you're working with.
Well, I was going to tell you, Tom used to speak at football clinics, and I was in the front row, and I always listened to what he had to say, and it was about kids, about God, about being respectful and caring for the kids. That's why I like listening to him. I said, hey, this guy, he's going to be hard to beat.
Well, on behalf of thousands of Catholic Central and Brother Rice alumni, and Coach Mack to me, Coach Fracassa to you, thank you. You guys have been a blessing in so many people's lives, and your traditions and your sayings and your ethic that you put into us carries on to make us great fathers, husbands, friends, and brothers. And we thank you, and thank you on behalf of all of those men.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you for having us. I just want to tell this guy it's a blessing to have our relationship turn out the way it did. When I was young, I never thought it would, because I was under so much pressure to beat this guy. But then as we learned to like each other, it was great playing each other.
My statistician told me that when we played against each other, it came to about half and half. He won half of the games, and then I did too. And it's only that sometimes he put a little bit more touchdowns against me, and I told him to see him out. But he's a great, great man, and I'm so proud to be his friend.
Well, God bless you both. Thank you so much. From Catholic Central, Brother Rice rivalry, we're signing out with two legends, two great men, and it's going to be a great finish to this game. Keep watching here on Bally Sports Detroit.